Hey everyone, welcome back to Couch for It. We're starting a new season! I'm Drew Tillman, and I am joined on this ridiculously oversized blue couch by.
Hey, I'm Volly.
And today we're starting off episode 1 of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage. Not the Teenage Witch, it's
No,
just
no,
Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
it
Every
is
time I say
indeed.
Sabrina, the Teenage Witch pops in my head.
Yeah,
Can't.
like even if I meet a random person and it's like, "Oh, my name's Sabrina," my head just goes, "The Teenage
The
Witch."
Teenage Witch. It's just in there. It's never
Yeah,
getting rid of that. It's too
it's like,
much of a iconic thing, I guess.
yeah, it's such like I don't know if you watched it growing up, but I know I watched it occasionally when I came home from school, and there are so many things I kind of nostalgia love about that show. I don't really remember the show very much, but there are things I remember about it. The
There, yeah.
cat being one.
The cat,
Um,
yeah.
That's all I ever really needed to know, and the ongoing gag that he was in fact Castro, which was just the funniest thing in the world to me.
And
Um,
Castro was a witch or a
yeah,
warlock or whatever. Like, yeah, that was a
yeah,
great one.
that was Salem. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that's who he was. Like when he was a human, that's who he was. Bent on world domination. It's it was just it's a nice little nostalgia that brings you back to watch Sabrina. I don't think I'd watch it if I hadn't have watched the kids series.
Probably not. Like, I was never into Archie, and I don't watch Riverdale, and everyone's like, it's
No,
so
yeah.
good, but it's like, I don't care about Archie. You don't fucking give two shits about Archie. But fun peek behind the curtain. I was homeschooled. I watched every terrible TV show that existed because I was home all the time.
Wowzers.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
Anyway, before we
Anyway.
dive down into the saddest parts of my life,
All right, well, let's pull ourselves out of that then.
yeah, let's go.
So
Let's move on to this.
The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina,
Mm-hmm.
not the Teenage Witch.
Nope. Even though she is a teenager.
Even though she is a teenager, is a kind of like a darker reboot of that idea of the comics and of the TV show. Like the whole thing, it's just a nice dark reboot. The Netflix have gone, yeah, let's do it. Um, it is kind of dark. There are
It
some pretty
is.
dark images. We should start out with my favorite, which is the opening scene. The opener. Again, managed to nail title scenes.
Oh yeah.
It feels like it's come directly out of like a horrible like Walking Dead style comic book. Like this is how the intro is done. It's just like here's a person, here's a dark horrible version. Here's a person, here's a dark, and it does this as it flashes through the different characters and the different names and the actors and stuff. And it's nice. It's short. It's sweet-ish. And I'm so glad you can skip on it because I've watched it once. Yeah.
You were done.
Yep.
Well then, I'm gonna say that your first impressions of this show is A plus.
Mm, the first impressions of this show being spoiler alert, I've actually watched episodes 1 through 8 already, so this isn't quite my first impression. Yeah, so there's 10 episodes. I've watched the first 8, and when we decided we were going to do this, I decided not to watch 9 and 10, which was really difficult. It's such a good bit. Um, my first impressions watching this second time round is, yeah, it was cool. I liked it. It was good. I'm glad I watched it again. Drew.
Mine are that I enjoyed it. I was like, okay, I like what they're building here. It's an interesting idea. It's a very interesting take. And I think they did a really good job balancing like overly dark, because they could have gone full like let's get real fucked up in here, but I
Mm,
think they did a good job of balancing the darker aspects of it with the oddly cutesy tone they put into it.
yeah.
I think they did a really good job with that because, like I said, if it were me, I would have just gone full like fucked up mode, and it would have been an awful, awful time for everyone in this town.
If we'd been left to roam this, it would have been like it would be like welcome to Barovia.
Exactly.
This place would have been fucked.
It would
Yeah,
have been real
they
bad.
keep that kind of like teenage childlike kind of like happiness to it, like hope. There's
Mhm.
just that cutesy feeling there, but there's still this like really dark undercurrent of stuff in there, which is like I dig this. I dig this so much. It's so
Yeah.
good.
And as I said to you, granted, this is before the stream started, but everyone in this show is so fucking like cutesy. Like they're so CW almost. Like
Mm.
that's the only way I can describe it is they look like people who would be cast for a CW show. It,
Yeah,
but they're
like
in the midst of this clearly awful shit that's going to happen to them.
yeah, like no offense to us, well, maybe a little offense to us. We would be casting these sort of roles for CW. Like we may be if we were doing like a grim dark version with like some small indie
Listen,
producers.
I'd be the shitty PE coach or something that would yell at
Of
everyone.
course.
Like that's what I would. It would be awful.
I'd like to think I'd be Zelma. I would
You
be
mean
like
Zelda?
yeah,
It's
Zelda.
Hilda and Zelda.
Aunt Z. I would be Aunt Z just because I can be an asshole and I'd love it. I wouldn't do it very often. Yeah. I kind of want to talk about the aunts because I freaking love them. Okay, maybe we should start with Sabrina. Let's start with
How
Sabrina.
about we start with the first scene, because I have notes as always.
Okay, so as traditional, I did take a note.
So the show opens with a nice little voiceover backstory about how they live in the town of Greendale, and in my head, it immediately replaced Greendale with Riverdale, because sure, why not? And that was just a thing that happened for the first, like, the entire hour of the show. But when we see a bunch of kids watching Night of the Living Dead at a Halloween special, and as they leave the theater, they run into their teacher, or a teacher, I guess, Miss Wardwell,
Miss
or
Wardwell,
Mrs.
yes.
Wardwell.
Because like all of these sort of things, like their names have special meanings. She's Spellman.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
Spellman.
she's Spellman, and the teacher is Wardwell. Oh, what a coincidence! She becomes. There is something I'd like to point out here. Like as with like some previous shows we have watched, they managed like making a character stand out from everybody else by dressing them in a different color. Sabrina is wearing this red jacket throughout like this interaction in the cinema and when they go outside into the foyer. And she's so different from everyone else. Like everyone else wearing like these dark or neutral tones. She's wearing bright freaking red. Like, well, she's clearly the main character, and I think she's also the only blonde we see.
I think so. She stands out in like the crowd of people, like a sore thumb. Honestly, she's just like, oh, there she is.
Yeah, like red is a color they use in here a lot. For very specific things, like the front door is red, bits inside the house are red, his truck, her boyfriend's truck is red. There are things that stand out very vividly, and they're always bright red. So.
Oh yeah. And in this scene, Sabrina invites her teacher out with them because they go to Cerberus's to discuss the movie they just watched. But the teacher declines and leaves, and then we see the teacher in her car, which also it's such a car for like a cutesy thing because it's this old car too.
Yeah.
Like everyone drives old shit. Like
yeah, they really do. Like, well, there's nothing like inverted commas new. Like
Nope.
none of these would be like, oh, I'm gonna go. You know, I see a nice new shiny car. I see what I consider a safe car. No, these are all like VW Beetle type things or like old pickup trucks. This kind of thing. This there's nothing new inverted commas here.
It's great. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give the show a hit. And if I had a sound effect, I'd play it right here because we see the teacher in her sweet, sweet old car, and she's listening to Bad Moon Rising. And I'm sorry, that is an overused song in a horror TV show. Please stop using it. I get it.
Did they use the original in that point?
I don't remember if they did, but it's in. I could name like 3 other horror shows it's in off the top of my head. Just stop it. We get it.
There are. I will have to say, if you want to hit the music, if you want to hit them, then I will hit them on the soundtrack also because in this show, they take a lot of those tropey songs for horror and for like witchcrafty type things. I put a spell on you. Nailed it. Turns up in this episode. All of those sort of things are in here. They're either covered really well and they're really cool and they put a twist on it or something, or it's the original. But they do this a lot and they always put it in that cheesy moment.
Yeah. Now don't let me get misunderstood. I love these songs. They're great. They're perfectly fine. They're just all overused for this kind of thing. Like, let's just not like for a minute, please.
Yeah, it's like we don't have to do this. So
there's other music out there. It's fine. But so she's driving along listening to Bad Moon Rising, and somebody comes out of the woods, and she swerves to avoid it, and then she makes the classic mistake of getting out of her car to investigate what she almost hit with her car. And it turns out to be a person who is, I think, covered in mud. It's kind of hard to tell with the color
she's like
of the show.
covered in dirt and mud and maybe old blood. Who really knows? But yeah, it's this girl with like long dark hair, and she's wearing I think some sort of dress or something. I don't really know.
I'll go ahead and say that I also really like the camera in this show because they clearly use something because the edges of the like in a circle basically it almost looks like a fisheye because right in the center of the screen is very very clear and distinct, but everything around the edges of the top and the bottom and the sides is all distorted and kind of curved and like blurry. But
Yeah,
whatever the camera's focused on is very very clear.
yeah, it's not throughout the show. It just seems to be whenever it's around a specific thing. Like it's either
Yeah.
around Sabrina when she's in like the magic world, or it's around when there's magical things
Yeah,
happening.
it's not constant,
No.
it's there, and they use it to a good effect because it is mildly off-putting. Like it's one of those things where it's not bad enough that you're going to necessarily notice it. I mean, but it's one of those things where it's small, it's subtle enough that your brain is going to be like something's slightly off here.
Yeah, there are points when it's in there really subtly, and sometimes it's in there, and then because the next shot in the same scene doesn't use it, it's really jarring to notice that change.
Yeah.
But when they do use it well, it's super good.
Yeah.
Like this part in this like little sequence of scenes here when they go from the little old teacher who's like really sweet and like is the proper like librarian type, but she's really quiet and that kind of stereotype, picks up this like girl she almost hit with a car, and you have that kind of like stereotypical nice woman driving the car, looking in the rearview mirror, seeing a terrifying vision. I mean, she doesn't, but she just sees this girl looking fucking terrible, and you think, oh no, someone's gonna die.
Yep. Yep. Which also, we're not reviewing this, but I want to say that one of the best uses of weird camera tricks that I've ever seen. I don't enjoy the show, and I've only watched half of one season. But American Horror Story, the first season, cut out frames whenever scary stuff was happening. And everyone I know didn't notice it because they were super into the show. But I noticed it, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Because it builds tension because your brain goes, something's missing. Subconsciously, your brain's like, something should have been in that moment, that one split second there, and it's not there anymore.
But that's coming from your edity brain.
Yeah, that's coming from my editing brain and going to film school and stuff. Anyway,
yeah, that old thing. Yeah,
it's just it was a neat film trick, and you see it in other stuff too. But I like what they did in this one. It's an interesting take on building tension and creating an atmosphere with the camera.
Yeah, super good at building atmosphere. Like the scene when so she takes her back to Miss Wardwell, takes this strange young lady back to her house.
Her cottage, as she calls it, which I don't know,
yeah,
that immediately sends shivers up my spine. No, don't ever go to anyone's cottage.
Cottage in the middle of the woods.
Right?
Like she's either the murderer or she's about to get murdered. So we go into this place and it's dark, it's kind of drab, there are books everywhere. Up like she sits the girl down in front of the fireplace, I think it is, and they have tea and biscuits or some BS. And like you can see it like from one side, you see them sitting on the other side of this table, and you see the fireplace, and above it there's this like big like picture. And there's a cross in there, and I was like, I like that touch, that was nice. It kind of supposed to give you the idea that she's a nice, wholesome, upstanding woman.
She's not evil, she's not bad.
No. So the girl asks if she knows about what's going on, and if she knows Sabrina, and the woman's like, yeah, I know Sabrina. Oh, and FYI, let's plot drop that there are some witches murdered here, like back in the witch hunts.
Yeah, and their ghosts still live in the woods.
It's like, yeah, I'm sort of the unofficial historian. And the woman's like, okay, and then just murders her.
Yep.
It's so quick and so brutal.
Not only does she murder her, she says that Sabrina's dad broke witch law. They say witch law a lot. In this show. When he married a mortal, and then she kills the teacher by throwing telekinetically throwing scissors at her.
Yes.
Just like,
so we see Wardwell hit the deck. We see blood pooling around the neck and under the head. And then the girl like reaches down and touches the blood and says some weird freaky stuff. And then the camera does that kind of like, again, kind of cliche thing where it like spins around her, so that when it comes to face the front of her, she's changed. So in that one frame where her head is taking up the entire screen, they've just switched the actor back to who she was. So she's taken the likeness of Miss Wardwell. So we're like,
Exactly.
oh no. Oh, she's been taken over.
Oh
Wah, wah,
no.
wah.
But
I,
we go and see Sabrina and her friends at
do.
Cerberus's. First of all, it's called Cerberus Books, and I didn't see any books. It looked like a diner to me.
Or maybe it's one of those like, we're a bookstore who branched into being a cafe and then just went, fuck the books and just
Maybe, because I'm pretty sure I didn't see a single shelf in that place.
I think you're right, yeah.
So they either named it really interestingly, or it used to be a bookstore, or something.
It's a mystery. I honestly can say I don't think I know it gets solved in this series.
I don't think it really matters. But her and her friends are sitting around and discussing Night of the Living Dead and what it stands for and what it meant at the time. And we find out that Sabrina's boyfriend is, he's thick. He's real dumb.
Yeah, so we have like Sabrina's friends. There is
Rosalind, Susie,
and Susie. Yeah.
and her boyfriend Harvey.
And all the women at this table are clearly very smart. They have interesting theories and ideas, and Harvey, the boyfriend, adds nothing to this conversation at all.
Are we watching the same movie?
Yeah, because they're going on about like it's about communism and materialism.
The fall of the nuclear family, and
yeah, and it's really funny.
oh, it's great.
It's pretty fucking good.
But after we find out that her boyfriend's dumb, we see it cuts to Sabrina and her boyfriend running up the road to Spellman Mortuary. Because in this show, Sabrina lives with her aunts in a fucking mortuary.
So fucking good, man. It's so good. It's like this wooden sign that we pan to, and it's like funeral something and rites. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, funeral, whatever.
Yeah, it's something along those lines. Like it's the Spellman sisters like mortuary, and it's the best goddamn thing because we like pan out from this sign and we see them running along this like path in the woods next to some like dodgy stuff off to the left. And you see this like decrepit old house, and he's like doing, "I'm gonna get you, Barbara." It's a nice throwback, and I loved it. Like that's like it's so adorable. It's that kind of like dumb shit you do with your significant other if like you've watched a dumb film and one of you just doesn't get it and think it's funny to chase after the other one. It's just an adorable little scene, and it's so pretty.
It's very cute. And the house is so like stereotypical like horror thing because it's like a Victorian style house with turrets and shit. I don't know, or Gothic. That would be
Gothic, yeah. Victorian Gothic, yeah, that fits. It looks like what you think. Like if you were gonna go to like the middle of like freaky nowhere in the middle of America and this place is clearly haunted, like if you see a mortuary, this is exactly what this looks like in your head. It has a porch and everything. Porch, bell tower minus the bell, that kind of thing. It's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
So we have this cutesy little scene where he basically says he loves her, and she says, "I love you too," and there is a necklace exchanged, and I think it's at this point we learn that she has something to do on her birthday, which also just happens to be Halloween. Because they can't spend her birthday together because she's doing this secret thing with her aunts.
Which she can't tell her friends about.
Yeah, she's not allowed to. So yeah, it's a nice, cute little scene, and it builds that kind of like it's a little bit like, right, quick, let's cram this like love thing in here. Let's quickly like cram this stuff in, and then like we can like leave him be. So we know that she has a dilemma going on.
Yep.
We have this very human side with this very up to this point, this very human part where there's the only weird mystical thing that's happening is not to Sabrina. It's nothing to do with her so far. So we have this nice little human interaction here, and then she walks through the door of this fucking mortuary. And she points at the radio. And then we just get like, I think it's baby something. Like she gets another like really cheesy.
It's very cheesy, yeah.
Really cheesy love song coming on that she makes come on, and she makes the lights come on just like waving her hands. And at this point we're like, this is the magic part of her life, because the camera does that weird fisheye thing again.
Yep.
Isn't that little bit here?
And she dances up to the stairs.
Again, overblown set. This set is amazing, right? So like there's red carpets on the ground. There are like this elaborate staircase that goes up on two sides and then goes up to meet at the top, that sort of thing. And there's a set of double doors. Like this place is gothic AF. Like the wood is dark and should be rotting and damp, but it's not.
There's definitely like vines and stuff living in the house.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Like
clearly.
this is a wild fucking house, like place, and apparently everyone's just cool with it.
Everyone's just like, yeah, it's cool, it's fine. Yeah, and that's how we get introduced to the inside of her house, of the magic part of Sabrina. This is the witch part of her life.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really like the set, their mortuary set is just, it's so good.
Yeah.
I guess if I came in and saw someone else watching over the shoulder, I'd do that thing where like, oh, this is cheesy, but because I'm brought into it, it's like, nah, this is good. I like it. I'm with it.
Yeah, it's one of those things you buy into it if you watch the whole thing. After she runs up her stairs dancing, it cuts to her waking up in the middle of the night, where she gets out of her bed and marks off another day on her calendar, because Halloween is marked as Sweet 16 and Dark Baptism.
Yeah, just casually written on her calendar.
It's fine, no big deal.
And then I think a bat breaks through her window.
Yeah, a bat flies through her window. Not sure a bat would have the mass or speed to do that. They don't weigh that much. But whatever. She just kills it with a book.
She mutters something dark and like, "Oh, I'm super sorry," or something in probably Latin or something, and then like smashes this bat with a book. It's like the bat is still alive.
Yes.
What?
And when she kills it with a book, then that is the cut to the next morning, where we see her going downstairs to meet the aunts finally. Yay! So she greets her aunts, and there's some guy in there who I was like, who the fuck is this? But
And reveals himself to be Ambrose, who's apparently their cousin.
yes, why not? Who fucking knows
Yes.
what the fuck's happening in this family?
See, I know who he is and why he's here. I just don't remember if it comes up in this episode.
It does not. It doesn't. The only thing it says is he's under house arrest in this episode.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, he's under house arrest. So there are certain. Yeah, I'm actually going to leave that because I know way more about what happened. So I'll shut up now.
They talk to each other, and I do like it because it is this very like family dynamic, supportive of Sabrina, but they just happen to be evil witches. Like they're just
Like they're always like, "Oh, praise Satan."
yeah, like, but they're very like supportive, especially Hilda. Like Zelda's kind of a bitch. She's kind of
Zelda
rude.
is absolutely like the very concerned with appearances. This is how this is gonna. She's like the angry parent of like, you have to do this.
She really
Whereas
is, yeah.
whereas Hilda's more like the, oh honey, no, do you really want to be a witch? I mean, come on. Like she's really sweet and really adorable. She's the proper over the top supportive aunt. It's hilarious.
I just love it because it's one of those things of the juxtaposition between evil witches and them being like, oh yeah, you have to go to school and be sure to eat your breakfast because it's the most important meal of the day and stuff. But she tells them about the bat, and Ambrose is like, oh, you want to bring it back to life, which I love. And Aunt Zelda's like, we will have none of your necromancy.
We'll have none of that necromancy here, thank you very much.
But Hilda tells her she can bury it in the pet cemetery, and then gives her a mason jar of blue milk, because
yeah, that greenish bluish scum.
Yeah, as we find out, she has to purify herself before the dark baptism.
You have to purify your temple.
Yeah, and they tell her what's in it, and it's a lot of herbs, and I'm pretty sure some of them are poisonous.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
pretty sure. But then my favorite part, because after they like rattle through these herbs, and there's like, drink it. Then Aunt Zelda's like, you have to pick a familiar, and throws a book down in front of her. And she's like, I've already outlined some of the best options.
You could choose the noble owl.
Or this handsome hedgehog.
Handsome hedgehog. I'm sure the dog could use another. The dog wouldn't mind because she has a pet dog, a familiar dog, I assume.
Named Vinegar Tom, and it is the most god awful looking dog ever. Like it's
so sad.
Horrible. It's like a beagle, but it just looks fucked up.
Yeah, it looks super sad. And Sabrina basically says, I'm not going to pick one. I'm going to let one pick me. And they're like, ooh.
Yeah, she's so nice that it's honestly disgusting because she's like,
Yeah.
that's dehumanizing. That's like just like goes on. Basically, she's Hermione Granger in that fucking book where she's on about the house elves. That's Sabrina. This entire fucking show, apparently. Like,
Yeah, pretty much. She is pretty much like in this kind of like world they've set up. She is very much the justice warrior for everything. She will not put up with anyone be discriminated for any fucking reason. She will stand up with her witchy fireballs and her pitchfork if need be, and she will just be like, no, this isn't right.
I don't know if she has witchy fireballs yet. As far as I can tell, she can turn on a radio and make some lights come on.
Well, I'll take it.
It is more power than I have, so you know what? Go for it.
Yeah.
But then, go ahead. You continue. I just want to talk about her baptism name.
Oh my god, yeah, her baptism name. So they're like, you have to choose a baptismal name, and she's like, I'm going to choose Edwina.
Edwina Diana.
That's the one, yeah.
Because Edwina is almost Edwin, and that's her father's name, and Diana is her mother's name.
Yeah. It's cute.
It's
and
so
adorable.
It's so cute. It's like, oh, okay.
She is the epitome of cute. Like, she is the cute witch. She's too good and too pure for this path of night. They took out the path of night and the path of light, and how no witch can walk both.
Yes.
So she has to like sign the dark book of the Dark Lords.
By the way, that's
the path of night.
I love the fact that they use the Dark Lord's book, because that's such a fucking like literally that's something that originated with like the Puritans in America about like the devil having a book you sign your name in and shit. And I just love that they use it. I'm like, all right, we get it. Yeah.
There are so many things like little themes to talk about in here. And one of them is this way that they treat their witchcraft very much like a religion. And it's brought up as such, and it's treated as such, and the way that she goes on to explain it to someone else is very much like, this would sound so much like a religion. There are so many parallels to being, except that she also has actual magic. That's the only like caveat to all this other stuff. Yeah, this scene also has my favorite line in it, which is, they're not human. It's like, they're so dehumanizing, but they're not human. They're goblins.
They're goblins that take the shape of an animal. It's fine.
It's this wonderful little plot drop of lore dump here. It's just done so naturally. It's just like, that's so beautiful. It's done in that sarcastic way of like, oh, come on. Like, they are not, goblins are not human. They're bred for service. What is wrong with you?
They're like, nasty little goblins.
Yeah. It's like, we learned something. It's fantastic.
But we cut to her burying the dead bat, and then Ambrose appears. Literally, like, it shows the spot where he's at, cuts away, and comes back, and he's there smoking and drinking tea. That's pretty much all he does.
Yeah, he is like the chillest motherfucker. At least that's his appearance. So he's sitting on top of like this grave marker wearing a bright purple shirt that says like aloha from something.
Yep.
And he's wearing like a dressing gown. It's so good. And he very much takes the place of someone who's a relative-ish age, maybe slightly older, who looks after her. So he's the mentor that she can understand. In effect, if this was a inverted commas normal family, he would be like the cool uncle that you would go to talk about life stuff that you don't want to talk to your parents about.
Exactly.
This is very much like Ambrose's place in this. I don't know what similarities he would have from the Teenage Witch show that we would know, except that maybe he's the talky part of Salem.
He literally he fills the role of Salem. Like, he's under house arrest for some mysterious thing, and he like, because Salem did offer Sabrina advice. Now, a lot of it was terrible, and he was still also the comedic relief, but he offered her a lot of advice. He was a sounding board for a young person who didn't have anyone else to turn to.
Yeah, and Salem in the TV series, Awful Cat and all, would very much encourage her to do the bad things in life, like because using her magic for personal.
Terrible.
Yeah, and Ambrose pretty much takes that same place. Yeah, I think that's pretty much Ambrose's place in this,
Yeah.
and he talks to her about like witchcraft and
And I want to say he's the first person to mention the school she's going to go to, which
yes,
is the Academy of Unseen Arts. And the only thing I thought was, is that the American branch of the Unseen University?
I think so. Yeah, this is what
Because
I want
it's the only thought I had. I was like, okay, so there's going to be a bunch of fat wizards running around.
Oh boy.
It's going to be great. They're
Bear
gonna
that prediction in mind, Drew.
I can't wait.
Yeah, so yeah, they're really good at working it in almost naturally. I mean, in this first episode, some of it is pretty like, oh, we need to find an excuse to drop this line in here, but this is again one of those where they managed to work it in pretty well of like, okay, you need to cut away from your mortal life because you're going to become a witch and you can't actually do both.
It's real bad. Can't do both.
Why haven't you told them yet? She's like, because I'm in love.
I'm in love and I don't want to tell my friends I'm going to leave them.
Yeah, I want to do both. That's an ongoing theme in this like first episode. I think is that I want to do both. Why can't I?
Mm-hmm. But that's the scene. Is it really sets up her dilemma, which is she's leaving. She needs to tell her friends that she's going to be gone, but she doesn't want to. Like, it sets up her dilemma. And then she goes into the woods to ask a familiar to volunteer to be her partner rather than her servant, which is like fine. She like draws a little symbol on the ground and says a ridiculous chant. And then 3 teenage witches show up. One of whom is named Dorcas, which
Yes.
I only bring up. I literally only bring it up because 2 months ago I would have thought that was a mean nickname. But in a mask game I play, someone named a character Dorcas and like, oh, it's a real name. And now I keep hearing it, which is, it's like that thing where you learn a new word and then you keep hearing it.
Yeah.
It's literally that. Like, in the last, like, 2 months, I have heard that name no less than 7 times, unrelated to the point where I learned it.
Wowzers.
Which, it's such a weird fucking name.
It's magic, Drew.
Fine, whatever. Anyway, they bully Sabrina, and she will have none of it, so they curse her.
Yeah, they basically say because Sabrina is born of a mortal woman and a warlock father, she's basically considered a half-breed by the horrible, horrible people in here, in the magicking world. And they're like, we don't want a half-breed in our school. Be cursed. And lo, she is cursed.
I did half expect them to call her a mudblood at one point.
Yeah, me too. That it's so in there.
But they curse her and fly away, and then she calls them suck you bitches, which made me laugh.
Yeah,
Because it's such a stupid fucking insult.
So childish.
Yes.
So she basically runs into school, and she has a shower and she starts like muttering like some rhyming, because as we all know, all rhymes are magic.
They're magic if you have the intent to do magic behind them, Valanda.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
Anyway,
So she's having a shower and she's scrubbing herself down and she's muttering a magical incantation to cure this curse. And she comes out of the shower, and this is one of the big themes that this show tackles, with its diversity thing. It's really, this show, like, we haven't really touched on it so far, but this show is really good at diversity. It takes a lot of people from a lot of usually unusual backgrounds. Like, you don't really have any cis white dudes in this, I'm gonna be honest. Like, there's like one, and that's her boyfriend. That's it. Everything else is like, they're either women, they're people of color, they're either not straight, their gender is fluid. It does the whole fucking gamut of stuff, and I'm so happy to see a main show do this. Like, we come across this girl, Susie, I think
it's one of her friends. Yeah, it's friend Susie.
Yeah, one of her friends, Susie, and she's crying and she has a busted lip, and she says, they lifted up my shirt to see what was under there. And Sabrina's like, I'm not having this shit. And she goes to the principal, who I fucking hate. I love this guy because I hate him. And she says, these jocks from the football team, whatever it is, like, basically lifted up her shirt to see if she was a girl, if she had breasts. That was the one thing I did comically like about this scene, was the way she said that, just that little phrase, like, she's still a girl, a 15-year-old girl approaching a dude who's in his 40s talking about the female body form. So yeah, that's awkward. I'm glad they kept that in there. So she turns to him and says, it was these guys, and he's basically, there's nothing that can be done about it. And that's
Yeah,
basically his response.
he tells her, "Oh well, there's nothing to be done about it. But if you give me their names," and she's like, "You could just ask all the football players." And he's like, "Oh, you want me to start a witch hunt?" And she's like, "I don't care for that term, but you could do anything about it."
Mm-hmm.
And he plays it off, and fuck that dude. He's such a piece of shit.
Yeah, his NASA's like, yeah, you should look after the rights of all your students, regardless. And he does it all.
Yeah, he tells her maybe you should suggest that Susie find a new school.
Yeah, that was
Like,
it.
go to fucking hell, my dude.
You can fuck off, my man. You can get the fuck out of here. And it's nice to see a show do this. Just like
She goes.
It doesn't treat any of this like it isn't normal.
No, everyone's like treated like they belong and it's normal and everything is like exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
Honestly, this would make such a good Monster Hearts game because the people, the humans, are the monsters here in quote unquote the humans, which are all the adults in this case.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because the adults are fucking awful.
This adult was such a tool. And we basically then cut to her.
She's telling her boyfriend to ask around to find out who did this, and that's when fake Wardwell shows up. And she's real bad at hiding because Miss Wardwell, when you see her the first time, or Mrs. Wardwell, she's this mousy woman in this like high collared shirt with her hair like done up
in a bun,
yeah. And then fake Wardwell looks like a stereotypical like succubus lady.
Yeah, like hair down, all big, like rough, curls in it, and dressed, which is very fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Like
bright red lipstick,
all the right places. Yeah, like she's gonna stand out in a crowd as being.
I also have, no one goes, "This is odd for you." Like no one's like,
no one brings it up.
Something's different about you, your hair, man. I don't know. No one says anything, but it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I think she just turns up and says, I don't know. I don't really know what she does here.
She gives them an idea that she could do something about it. Because she's complaining about what happened, and Wardwell's like, oh, well, you could do something about it. Because this Wardwell knows she's a witch. Mm-hmm. But she... I can't just out and say, like, hey, I know you're a witch. You could just, like, use magic and, like, do something.
Yeah, she's really good at manipulating, like slowly planting the seeds of using her magic, because that's one way that this Wardwell fake can get Sabrina to go to the dark baptism and be given unto the Dark Lord. That's this woman's entire mission so far.
To get Sabrina to the Dark Lord. Mm-hmm. But this scene cuts to the Spellman mortuary where Hilda answers the phone to find out that a young man was stabbed to death.
Yep.
And Z is so happy. She's outside in this overcast day tanning under clouds. Which so
good. She's out there like Aunt Z has a cigarette holder.
Yeah, she's got a cigarette holder which looks like a little fork, like a little gold fork.
And she has a cigarette on the end of it, and she's like, I think she might be reading at this point, and like Hilda comes along and is like, oh yeah, there's a boy who's been stabbed. She's like really sad about it, as a boy's been stabbed to death and his parents are coming over. And Aunt Z is like, is it closed or open, casket? It's like, we didn't get that far. That the son has just been murdered. It's just really very different. Like one very emotional attached one, and the other one's very like logistical. Like, well, we need some blood from somewhere for Sabrina's dark ritual. Hope it's human.
Hope it's human. Human is so much better.
Of course.
And then it cuts back to Sabrina and her boyfriend walking home. And he's like trying to get her to tell him about the secret thing she's going to do on her 16th birthday.
Yeah.
And he tells her that their love can withstand anything. Because 16-year-olds are the dumbest fucking people in the world. I'm sorry.
We love you, but we've all been there.
We've all been there. Teenagers are stupid. It's okay.
Teenagers in love, we're dumb. Sorry.
But she takes him into the woods and tells him everything, from the fact that she was born in the woods
in this particular grove.
Yes.
Like, in this particular place she was born. And when she turned 16, under the eclipsing blood moon, because of course it would be, every 6 years, like, she's gonna go through her dark baptism. And
but it's not as bad as it sounds.
It's not that bad. It's not as bad as it sounds.
It's like a bat mitzvah or a quinceañera. Like, it's totally okay.
It's like, that's actually really good. It's like, I'm getting reborn. And it's like, what do you mean literally? I'm leaving my girlhood behind. It's like, yes, this is literally along the same lines as a bar mitzvah, as the quinceañera. It's like, those things are along the same part. It's basically saying, I'm no longer a girl. That's literally what this ceremony is. I was like, oh.
I love how she dances around the issue of trying to say that she is a witch, and he's just like, what do you mean? So she just straight up says it to him, and he freaks out. But the thing that I have to point out is she says, there's so many delicious things about being a witch. Who the fuck talks like that? Just anybody who says, yes, there's so many delicious things about living in the city I live in. No one talks like that.
Not true. I'm gonna make delicious part of my vocabulary.
Don't. It sounds weird.
I'm going to. I'm gonna test it out for a week. See if I can slip the word delicious into a conversation a day. It's really difficult. I don't actually speak to hardly anyone any days. Usually I'm in here doing something dumb. So I'm gonna try any human interaction I have this week. I'm gonna try and slip the word delicious in, and I'll feedback next week and see how bad it goes.
All right, we'll see how that goes. But
yes, it was totally odd.
It's very odd. Which she's not the only one who says it, because Aunt Zelda says it later.
Yeah.
Like, is this just do people just think witches say that about stuff?
No idea. But she's trying to get. If she's trying to wean her boyfriend into the whole fact that she's a witch and please be cool with it, I'm gonna have to go to another school and be a witch. Yeah. I do think using phrases like "I have to sign my name into the Dark Lord's book" is really going to help.
It's just like turning, it's just like going to quinceañera. I'm gonna sign my name into the Dark Lord's book. No big deal. I just can't hang out with humans anymore, okay?
Yeah. It's like some of those phrases could probably be taken out and things would have been okay. Just ease him into those things. Like, just dump it all at once, because that is a lot for a guy to take in. Like, a 16-year-old kid who's just professed he's in love with her going, I'm in love with a witch. Yeah, sure. That's a bit much to dump on a person all at once. So she does the only thing that a witch in love can do when her boyfriend freaks out, which is to cast a memory loss spell.
Yeah, she mind wipes him. Also, I want to say Dirty Habanero says that delicious is not as entertaining as delectable. And then says, my friends and I used to play the D-word game when we were drinking, and there are so many delicious D-words. So they have slipped a D-word. They have slipped delicious into a conversation as if it's not that weird. It's still very weird.
I have to call that the delicious. It was weird.
Oh,
I'm so glad that's a drinking game.
So anyway, Sabrina then goes home and tells Ambrose about what happened, and he's very empathetic, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, whatever." Like he listens to her. He doesn't give her any.
He doesn't judge her.
Advice. Yeah, he's just like, it's hard to leave things behind, or.
Yeah, it's like it's tough. He gets it. He understands like the struggle she's going through. I mean, granted, he's a full witch and she's not, so she has something to lose that he didn't.
Yes.
But she's, he understands. He doesn't judge her. I would be judging shit out of her because she just cast a like. How is that not going to come and bite her back in the ass at some point?
But see, that's the thing is, magic users in everything tend to they use magic willy nilly, and they're just for the most part meh, whatever.
She's using her magic to change something about her boyfriend she doesn't like.
Yeah. And
without
usually,
his consent. It's not like, do you mind wiping my memory because I kind of don't want to know this? Like, there was no asking of that. She was just like, I'm just taking this and getting rid of it. Like, it's terrible.
Now, I will say, in this show, with the way they're building it, I can see it becoming a problem for a lot of reasons. Mainly, like, a lot of things. But generally, in magic stuff, the only time magic ever causes a problem is when they need that problem to exist because plot. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't memory wipe people too many times because then their brain goes all mushy. So then it's like, well, if you use a memory wipe, like, it's really dangerous, like, that kind of stuff.
I would be disappointed if they didn't come back to this.
I'm pretty sure they'll come back to it. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a plot hook for later.
Yeah, I hope so, because if this goes unpunished, then like, oh come on, like they do so well in like basically standing up and saying like this shit isn't okay. keep this, you know, let's live in the world as it should be, not the way as it is.
Yep.
If they don't come back and like kick her in the ass for this, I'm gonna be very disappointed. So I want to see this
Definitely. But
out.
also, so Sabrina enlists Ambrose's help to cast a spell on the principal because she wants to get a club started to protect all the girls, and she can't do it with the principal there. So Ambrose is like, "Oh, I get to hurt somebody with magic? Fuck yes, let's do this."
And she's like, we aren't killing the guy.
He's very upset by that.
He's like, no. My favorite phrase in this like little interaction I have on the porch is like, my grimoire is your grimoire. It's sort of like, yeah, my castle is your castle. It's like, this is beautiful. Yeah, I like it.
And inside, Sabrina tells her aunts about the girls in the woods, and they tell her like, "Oh, they're just jealous of you because you're the daughter of a high priest," and they make her crack an egg to see if the curse is gone. And Hilda's like, "Oh, it's a blood curse." So get some candles, take a salt bath, just have a good skincare regimen basically for a couple of weeks, and you're fine.
Yeah, I like the very matter-of-fact way that she dispenses this advice. It pretty much is like the old wives' tale of like, oh, you have a pimple, but if you do this, like, yada, 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 then it'll be fine, except this is actually magic, so it will actually happen. I just love the casual way that all this is dispensed, and it's always Hilda that dispenses this kind of stuff. She seems to know her little, like, cures for these little things. She seems to know what she's doing this, and I really like that she's the aunt that can you depend on to do this.
And so Sabrina brings up the thing that the sisters in the woods said, which were, by the way, they're the weird sisters. I just want to say that. They're the weird sisters. And they told her in the woods that her parents had a terrible accident, and if Sabrina doesn't cut it out, the same thing might happen to her.
Yeah.
And Sabrina,
so she confronts her aunts about it, as you would.
And they clearly lie. They lie in the exact same manner the ants in James and the Giant Peach lie to James. It's like...
They even do that, like, oh no, it wasn't an accident. They were just flying to the Vatican to give a speech.
To give a lecture, and their plane just kaboom. It's fine. Even though your dad was a wizard or warlock or whatever, and should have been fine and could have saved himself. Nope, just died.
Just an accident. And Sabrina goes up to have a bath, and then we have that cut back to, like, smash cut back to the aunts, and they're just looking at each other like, well, I guess we lied. I hope she doesn't look back now because it's written all across our faces.
So Sabrina goes upstairs, and I accidentally...
She has a bath?
Yeah. I accidentally left I closed my Skype, but apparently... Or not Skype, Slack, but apparently it didn't work. Sorry, everybody who heard that message noise. So yeah, she goes upstairs and has a bath, and falls asleep in the tub, which, by the way, I'm jealous of this tub. I want this tub. It's like a huge tub
you can pass out in and not drown in.
Right, it's got this huge back, like where you can like lean against. It's like, it looks like a good tub. I want this tub. Anyway, she falls asleep in the tub, wakes up in the woods where she sees her parents, and she's like, "Oh wait, come back! Are you coming to my baptism?" And then her parents leave a baby on a rock in the woods, and they like just walk away. But when Sabrina gets there, there's 2 babies.
Yeah, it's a suitcase.
Ooh.
And there's a baby in each side of this suitcase. And she goes to the babies and she does the weirdest thing known to man. She picks up the bottom of the blankets and lifts it up as if to check if it's a girl or not. And she lifts up the one on one side. It's like, these are human feet. This is a whole human being. And she does it on the other side, and it's like these kind of dark cloven feet.
It's got goat feet.
Yeah, it's got goat feet. So you go, oh, so that's the mortal side, and then that's the witch side. Okay, that's disturbing. But to me, it was like the manner in which she lifted this blanket. I'm like, why?
The blanket lifting didn't make any sense. It's not like there was a reason for her to do it.
No,
she was just like, like, what are you doing?
Super creepy.
It was very creepy.
Anyway, that aside,
that's the end of the dream. She wakes up and she's like, yay, and then she goes to Ambrose to cast the spell. And thankfully, one of the ants keeps a bunch of spiders around as familiars.
Because the principal is terrified of spiders.
Yes. So...
Now, as much as I think this dude is a dick and deserves everything he gets, I can't stand by what they did to him because fuck my life.
They basically summon a ton of spiders to crawl all over him. They don't, as far as I know, bite him or wrap him in webs. They just touch him. That's it.
That's enough, Drew. That is enough.
You know what? I'm not
He's
saying
asleep.
it's not.
He's there asleep in his chair, and these things start crawling all over him, and then he freaks out like any decent human being does. He then falls on the floor, like I understand when covered in spiders, to this floor carpeted in spiders, and they start crawling all over his face and up his nose and in his mouth, and I'm like, I don't like it. Please stop.
But it cuts away. It cuts away very quickly.
No, it doesn't.
Well, sort of quickly.
Not quickly enough, Drew. It's not quickly enough.
Fine, it cuts away, and Sabrina goes back to her room, and the room is very, very cold, and the window is open, and she goes to shut it and find there's claw marks on the windowsill, and she's like, oh no, what now? And then a voice is like, Sabrina, I heard you in the woods, and this thing is clinging to her closet door, and I am, let's say 90% sure I've seen this exact thing in a nightmare. It's a weird looking shadowy thing with these bright eyes, just like, what's up?
It kind of like it doesn't put it in the center of the shot either.
No, it's like off to
the top left.
Yeah.
Most of it's hidden behind this little like folding thing she has, so she can get dressed behind it while I assume her friends are in the room, whatever it is.
I guess.
And it has it's kind of like long extended hands over the top, and it's just like a bulbous shaped head, and there's like lots of shadows, and at one point you see this tail, and then it kind of like crawls down behind it, and it's like disappears, and then out pops this cat,
a black cat, and she's like, oh hey, what's up, and picks it up. And I said, now in my notes I said a goblin heard her and came, but I'm sure it's not a goblin. I'm sure it's something else.
It's a goblin.
No. I here's the thing. I bet it's not actually a goblin. Because Sabrina's supposed to be chosen and prophesied and all this other nonsense. So I have a feeling it's not actually a goblin.
Okay.
I have a feeling it's probably something else.
I think it's a free goblin.
It's definitely a free thing, because at one point Zelda's like, you want a free goblin? You want a feral goblin and not one bred for service? Yeah. Which is...
Yes. So she picks up this not animatronic cat, which... I kind of like that animatronic cat in Teenage the Sabrina Witch was the shittest thing known to man, but it was part of my childhood and I miss it. She picked up this real cat.
Salem in this could have just been the animatronic cat where Salem ate too much in the TV show and was really, really fat. And I would have been happy with that. That could have been the whole thing.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But anyway, the next day, Sabrina's at breakfast with her aunts and she asks if she could maybe postpone her baptism just a little bit.
And they're like, there's a bit where like Aunt Ilda's like looking the other way, and she hears Sabrina say this, and she's like, "Oh no!" Just like that look of like, "Oh no, you're gonna kick her off. You're gonna kick her off," and Zelda just flies off the handle like, "You can't do this. 66 years in an eclipsing blood moon. You can't change your birthday. You have to sign your name into the Dark Lord's book. You have to walk the path of night." And Sabrina's like, "What if I don't want to?"
What if I want to? Quick pause there. Dirty Habanero says, TLD goal to summon giant spiders constantly.
No.
No. Well, you heard it. She shut it down. How rude of her.
Well, they already have had some not spiders and some actual spiders. There may be more spiders. Iguanfo.
Spiders. Lots of spiders.
Please. No.
So let's get back into this, because I like this goal, honestly, but let's go back to the thing we're here for.
Please don't make me do this.
Which Sabrina says that she's taken her dating life to the next level, and Zelda's like, have you let him defile you? You have to be a virgin. And I love the Ambrose gets uncomfortable and is like, oh nope, like walks across.
I'm out of this. I'm out of this.
I'm not here. I'm done with this. And Sabrina is like,
not that it's any of your business, but no.
Also, why does the Dark Lord get to tell me what happens with my body? Which, fair question. Why does anyone tell you what happens with your body? Sabrina, you yell at whatever you want.
Yeah, it's like, why should this dude has nothing really to do with her so far, like, determine what she gets to do with her body? This is BS. She calls out the BS of this weird patriarchal society that she's in, which is hilarious because in her mortal life, the same thing is happening with the principal, who is this weird patriarchal dude. So parallels, yay.
Yeah.
And I can't. What?
Basically, Sabrina and her aunts kind of get into this fight because why would Sabrina want to be part of a world that nearly like excommunicated her father for falling in love with somebody.
Yeah.
And her aunts are like, oh, well, at least Zelda's like, because your parents wanted you to do this. They both said it so many times, just so many times. The exact thing somebody would tell you if they were lying through their teeth about something. They would tell you how true it is, how just this is the truth, and you don't have to worry about it. You gotta trust me because it's the truth. It's just real uncomfortable. But then we cut to later outside, where Ambrose comes up and tells Sabrina she needs a
Malum Magnus or Magnus Malum.
Yeah, which is basically it's the forbidden apple. You go eat
It's
it.
the
And it gives
forbidden apple if you're a dude, and the fruit of knowledge if you're a chick.
Yeah, you eat it and it tells you things. So you go to an orchard, you find the oldest tree, and you pick it.
Because it's seen the most shit, man. Yeah. It's seen some shit.
It's seen some shit. So you pick the apple, eat the apple, man. And it tells you the future.
And the older it is, the more accurate the vision will be. So, okay.
And then she's like, okay, that sounds cool. Then it cuts to school where her and her friend Rosalind go to see the principal to start their club. But
oh no, he didn't come into work today.
He's taking a day off. So they go see the assistant principal, who approves it, and they start their club, which is called Wicca. It's a club for all the girls in school, basically to have a legitimate presence so that if the douchebag jocks want to start some shit, they have people watching out for each other.
Yeah. Which is a good idea. I kind of did the eye roll at the let's call it Wicca thing. I'm like, oh.
That's just some nonsense that I was ready for because it's a show about magic. Anyway.
Yeah, okay. We'll go with it. I'm like, oh no. Okay, fine. Let's do that trope. Let's go for it.
Right after that, Wardwell calls her into the office and they have a quick little conversation about pressures and the future
and like changing schools and like don't use the thing, but is it a good school? You should go do it, yada yada yada. Again, manipulating her without actually using the words. So then after that, I think she's then going to the orchard.
She does, but we get a scene from the mortuary first.
Oh yeah.
Ambrose begins to prepare the body of the boy who was stabbed to death.
Yeah.
And he finds a weird mark on it. So he goes and gets the aunts, and he's like, hey, look at this thing. And like, yeah, it's a birthmark. And he's like, no, I stabbed it. So he sticks a needle into it, and nothing happens. Which I do love the fact that Hilda is like, oh, it's a witch's mark. And Zelda's like, or it just means all the blood settled into his buttocks.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
Again, the logical answer. And
he's been dead.
Like, maybe we should tell the council about this,
because if it is a witch's mark...
Yeah, then there's a witch hunter.
Yep.
And they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should do that. And then Hilda raises the idea that if Sabrina wants extra guidance, maybe they should get someone to help her. And then Auntie's like, we mean the Dark Lord himself? And Hilda's like, no. Wait, no.
No.
It's like, I'm like, hang on a minute. No, that's not right.
Honestly,
she does a lot in this series, and it's the cutest, amazing. She nails it. Like this cute little, like, should I? No, wait, no, that's dumb.
Honestly, though, I kind of wish she would said yes, and I kind of wish the Dark Lord showed up, because I would have loved to just see somebody dressed like, I don't know, a stereotypical devil who just being like super charismatic and nice, like, oh, Sabrina, what's wrong? Tell me.
Oh, please, darling.
Tell me all about your doubts.
In my head, he's English.
Oh, yes, of course. I don't know why, but yeah, he's English.
He's got to be English.
Anyway.
Because all villains are English, come on.
Of course. But Sabrina and Harvey go to the orchard to go apple picking, and then Harvey's just like, I need to go get a pumpkin, and wanders away.
Just sods off. So in this orchard, she goes to the end of this like little tree area, and she sees the hay maze.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
She sees the hay maze, and it says, there's a little sign that says old tree, and she looks up and there's a big ass old tree. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, there's a huge tree, which looks more like an oak tree than an apple tree, but hey, what do I know?
You know, it could be an oak tree. It's magic, dude.
Sure, it's magic. Okay.
Yeah.
But
so she starts to wander along in here, and what's interesting to note is that up to this point, she's been wearing a red jacket. At this point, however, she's wearing a dull greyish brownish jacket with a red top underneath. So let's peel back the layers of meaning here. She's pretending to be mortal, or she is both mortal and witch.
Yeah, she's on both sides of it.
Yeah. She's not just standing out at the moment. She's showing that she's both. She's stuck in a conundrum of what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she wanders around this thing and she sees this freaky ass looking scarecrow.
Because there's got to be a scarecrow because it's a magic thing.
Of course.
And then she goes in a circle and comes back to where the scarecrow should be, but it's not there. And the scarecrow attacks her.
Oh my god, this thing is fucking terrifying.
By the way, it's super creepy. Like, I was like, oh, props on this, because usually I'm like, that's dumb. But the way they filmed it, the camera's very shaky. The way this thing comes around corners as if it were made of straw, like it's very light, so it just kind of like bounces off the wall. Yeah,
it's like really fluid. It like gets down on all fours at one point and does that skittering forward thing.
It's awful.
It smashes into things, and I don't know if they've just CG'd the fuck out of it or if it's just a genuine prop or they've done a mixture of both. I don't know, but it's so fluid. And you said there was shake cam on it. Yeah, there was shake cam, but it wasn't like, oh my god, we're running around Blair Witch style. No, this is good shake cam. This is getting the impression of what the fuck is going on, and the fact that it's in these very narrow corridors.
Super narrow. They're not very long, so she turns corners a lot, so it's not always on screen. Like, they don't overuse it on screen, which is great.
And it has that cool fisheye lens, so you know that there's some weird shit going on, which just adds to the atmosphere. Like, it's so good at building that atmosphere of, like, what the fuck? And, like, I'm pretty sure the bloody scarecrow thing has some sort of skull head, because it looked very much like that. The very few times you actually get to see the whole thing at once.
It's
done so well.
It's real weird and creepy, and we see Wardwell controlling a little miniature version of it in her office with like a puppet.
She's like, like proper like evil witch cackle style. It's freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Sabrina runs along this slightly longer stretch, and she looks back, and we just suddenly hear smash, and we just hear like a kind of like a roar.
Oh, we get a split-second shot of Salem, not in his cat form, just smash through these like walls of this hay maze, and when Sabrina. Instead of running further away, she goes back, I guess. But there's Salem in his cat form, just like licking his paw, just like, hey, what's up? No big deal.
Sup, yo. And then she asks a series of questions as like, what happened? Was this the weird sister? And he's like, grrr. It's like, maybe you could take me through the maze. And he's like, meow.
So
it's amazing. So she's already figured out someone had sent this after her, but it wasn't the weird sisters.
Wasn't
but she's
the weird
like,
sisters. Because she can understand the cat. Sure, why not?
Of course, because it's Salem.
Yeah, so Salem leads her to the old tree, where she finds a single red apple.
Of course it's red.
Yes. She asks her question, which is, should she do the baptism? Takes a bite, and she gets a vision standing in front of a tree, the tree that she's in front of, with 13 dead bodies hanging in it.
Of course.
And then the tree opens up, and the I'm gonna say a beast and not necessarily Satan climbs out of it.
I think it's the beast.
Yeah, I think it is the beast, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to give it the. It might just be
How about we don't know his name per se. His name might not be the beast. He may not appreciate being called the beast. He might not appreciate being called a beast, but it is a little beast, so we'll go for little beast.
Yeah, it's a beast with a little bit. But it starts to chase Sabrina. Sabrina spits the apple out and goes back to being just like in the regular safe area where Harvey appears. And he's like, why didn't you wait for me? Which I love it. Like, man, he got through that maze real fast. It was like, Sabrina, what the fuck?
I mean, to be fair, like, Satan punched a hole in it, so...
That's true. He might as well walk through the big hole.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to the mortuary where Sabrina goes inside, but Salem doesn't follow her and instead kind of like creeps away. And as she walks in, she's like, hey, everyone, can I have a family meeting? I've made a decision. And then her aunts are like, oh, we're in here. So she walks in and finds the family in this very odd tableau with this weird-looking dude who turns out to be... Yes. Turns out his name is Faustus Blackwood.
Of course.
And he is Satan's representative on Earth.
Yeah, he's like the high priest or whatever.
He's the high priest.
He's the high priest because they're just like, we're being... honored with a visit from the high priest.
The high priest.
Lord.
Satan's representative. And he's like, let's see what I can do to convince you to become a witch. That's the end of episode 1. Mm-hmm. That's it, everyone. That's episode 1. Whee!
It has a bit of an odd end.
You mean the part where the camera zooms in on his very manicured nails?
Oh yeah. And then I think it goes back to her face for a minute, and then it smash cuts. It goes to black. It's like, I'm not gonna say the pacing was out on this, but it's a very odd place to end. It very much feels like, oh, maybe they did an extended pilot and they just cut it roughly in the middle somewhere.
It's possible.
kind of that feel to it. Like, oh wait, they don't quite know how to. There's no proper. It just doesn't feel like a proper finish. It's like the end of a chapter, which I guess if this is what Netflix are moving towards now, of like, because we binge everything now, like all series gets binged apart from us doing this crazy once a week thing. Like binging it as once, like, yeah, it's a chapter. Like, to be fair, when I was watching it, I just binged up like to up episode, I think 7 or 8 in one hit. Yeah, it was like 7, and then I watched 8 on its own, and we're doing this, like, oh shit. So like you don't notice the breaks because it just rolls really easy from one to the other. Yeah, it's and that's the episode. There's so many things. So many things.
Yeah, we're running a little long, so we should.
Wrap.
Yeah, Valanda, how would you rate this episode?
I would rate it a solid 3.5. It's good.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's wholesome. There are things I loved about it. There are things I was like, oh, it's tropey, but we'll see how it goes. Watching it second time around, there are definitely things. I am excited to see now that I know what they're there. It's not just a candy level show. It's not it's not for the show from her childhood, and it's a bit darker. I love it.
Welcome to the entire season of Altered Carbon for me.
It's so hard. How did you do this? Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. What about you, Drew?
I'm gonna give it a 4 because I liked I'm honestly both knocking a star or a bulb off for the trope and giving it a full bulb for the trope, because they do it in such a way that I want to buy into it, but at the same time, it's so tropey. Like, it's so just like, everything's good, doop-a-doop-a-doo, but at the same time, they present it in such a way that I want to buy into it.
Yeah, it's a good setup. It's a good
really
premise.
is.
I think the actors they chose were perfect.
Yeah. Clearly, again, unlike Lost in Space, we had some people who had some forethought about what they wanted to do with art direction and so forth. There's a lot of interesting things that I can't wait to see more of and maybe find out what they might mean or represent.
All the sets are like, especially like the human sets are just like your generic human sets. The mortuary is fucking amazing. My favorite thing about the mortuary set is when she's walking along the corridor, either to Ambrose's room or back from Ambrose's room, who lives in the attic. Is the fact that there are shoes on the wall.
Yeah,
it was amazing. I was like, oh, I missed that last time. How fucking freaky that scarecrow was. So.
Oh, that scarecrow was real freaky.
Oh yeah.
So, based on episode 1, would you recommend it?
I think I would, because I think I did.
Yeah, you recommended it to me, so there you go.
What about you, Drew? On episode 1, would you continue watching?
Yeah, I keep watching. I wanted to see the next episode, but I stopped it because we do this thing.
Yep, we do this thing.
And I denied myself the pleasure of binging a show that I enjoyed an episode of. It's very hard.
It's rough. It's rough. So rough.
But here we are. I'm here. I will watch episode 2 next week.
Yes. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's a good episode. It's a good one.
Honestly, I may watch it tonight and then watch it again to take notes later.
Oh, that's definitely a choice.
Because
that's definitely a choice you should try.
If I watch it and then I go back and watch it to take notes, I don't feel like I had to pause this one a bunch because I was taking notes and I was like, I don't want to miss things, especially because they clearly put some thought into what's on camera at any given moment. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to miss something that's like a subtle clue.
There's a lot of symbolism in the background of a lot of things.
So I didn't want to miss something while I was typing a stupid note. Like, because I have some, I kind of stream of consciousness type these things out, and a lot of them are real stupid. Because just things like, hold on, let me find one of my dumbest ones. On this one, I have 5 pages of notes for this episode.
I feel like I have to write notes for really bad series because I forget how terrible they are, so I need to keep note of my stuff. Which is why I had so many notes for Altered Carbon, but I had none for the last 2 series because I'm good.
I don't know. I don't have any particularly stupid ones in this one. But yeah, just like whatever like pops in my head, I write it down. There are often side notes inside my notes where it's just me like insulting something stupid.
What the fuck was that?
That's dumb. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I would watch it. I would recommend it. I want to keep watching it so far. I like what they're
That's
doing.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets better. It definitely gets better. That's why I recommended it. It's good and I enjoy it.
Good.
I guess that's us wrapping, right?
Yeah, that's us. We went a little bit long, but I believe it is time for the bits.
The bits. You can find me on Twitter at blood_BTP. This week is the release of. Oh my god! Last week I didn't realize it's being released. Last week released episode 2 of The Dark Dice. Go check that out. There's a lot of me swearing and singing in it, and it's damn diabolical and the coolest critical ever. Not performed by me, but my god, Peter is a fucking legend. So that got released. Go check that out. The White Vault comes out again this week on the mainstream, not just on Patreon. So there should be a bunch of bloopers if you're on Patreon for this episode. So that's really good. TLD comes out tomorrow, Monday. Well, it's today for me. Comes out Monday, and that's a really cool episode. And I really loved it, and it's really, really funny. And there are fireballs, and it's fucking amazing. I think that's probably it for me. Next week I'm going to be in a different country, so hopefully I'll be able to stream in.
Let's hope so, because otherwise it's going to be real weird.
It's going to be real difficult, yeah. What about you, Drew?
You can... I start in the middle of that shit. I'm Drew Tillman, and you can find me on Twitter at NotThatDrew. Great place to follow me, because that's where I put all the stuff that I'm doing. Not so much right now, because I'm kind of riding out the end of the year. But tomorrow is the next episode of Taking Initiative. I think it's the second episode inside the castle.
I'm going to go yes.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I think last episode you guys just got there, or you just opened the door or some such.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this is the second episode in the castle, because I remember commenting somewhere else. No, first episode in the castle. First episode in the castle. Anyway, we're in the castle. Stroud's coming up. Yay, we're going to fight him.
Go kick his ass.
But that's where you can find me. I'm doing that this week. You can find me next Sunday here. And yeah, that's all I have. So,
all right, then.
That's great. Anyway, thanks for coming out, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We always like to see the chat room full of talkative people when we do this, because we can bring it into the show. And
yeah, you're one of us. Welcome to our sofa or couch.
Whatever you call it. Welcome to the really big couch or sofa. Help us make fun of TV shows. If you've seen them, or just make fun of the way we talk, because it's awesome. Dead Habanero, I will check out Norseman, based on what you said. I will check it out for myself, and probably not on this, because we've got 3 things lined up after this. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff lined up after this.
So many shows. We don't know what series we're doing next, but we know what we're doing when we finish this one. We know the movie we're watching and the 2 following movies.
Yep. Well, we did talk about the series that would follow this one, but I don't know if we're actually going to do that one or do another one.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Anyway, hey, thank you for coming out. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Sunday, and you can find this episode as a podcast Friday-ish.
I'll admit, like the episode that you sent to me on Friday, I may have forgotten to put up. I thought I looked through my notes. I'm like, I haven't done it yet. Fuck. So I have so much to do before next week. There is one thing we do need to shout out that we're doing next week, slightly different from this week.
Yes. Next week we'll be on a different Twitch channel. We will actually have our own Twitch channel, so you can find us on Couch for It. So whatever the name is, we will tweet it out. I'm going to assume Couch for It. Someone may have stolen that, which would be weird.
I really hope nobody has stolen Couch for It.
That'd be super
weird.
It
may make our podcasting a little more difficult. Sorry, it may make the live part of our podcasting a little more difficult.
It would be very weird.
But we'll be on the same time, same day.
Same time, same day. Exactly. So not much is changing, just a new place to go. But yeah, we'll tweet about it, so you'll know where to find us. And that's pretty much it, I think, right? We don't have anything else to talk about?
That is literally it now, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So again, third time. Thank you for joining us. We will all see you very soon. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.